Welcome to the Ultimate Bondcast, the No Time to Die updated edition, where 5 mega fans, that's us, get together to rank the entire 26 movie series, averaging all of our results to determine which James Bond film is the best and which is the worst. We'll see where No Time to Die ranks amongst the other 25 Bond films, and yes, we will have a polite discourse about No Time to Die's controversial ending. And finally, because it's been over 4 long years since we all got together to rank the Bond series in parts 1 and 2, we're all getting a chance to reevaluate our old rankings and see how No Time to Die might have stirred that pot. So let's go around our little virtual circle and get to know each of our 5 mega fans. John, let's start with you. Identify yourself and your Bond credentials.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Cox, and I write a blog called The Book Bond. I've worked as a screenwriter and have worked in post-production for all of my life. I think the best Bond is actually Daniel Craig, but my favorite Bond will always be Roger Moore. Bond fan since I saw Diamonds Are Forever on television in 1974-ish or so, and Spy Who Loved Me in the theaters. So I'm the veteran.
I'm Stamos, Athena Stamos, and I'm a former CommanderBond.net journalist. I was introduced to the world of 007 through James Bond Jr. growing up, and my first film was on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I've been in the presence of all 6 Bond actors. My favorite James Bond is Pierce Brosnan, and the best James Bond is Roger Moore. I enjoy traveling, especially when it's to 007 locations, one of my first being the For Your Eyes Only monasteries in Greece when I was 15, and one of my most recent being the top of my bucket list, which was to bungee jump off the dam from the GoldenEye pre-title sequence located in Switzerland.
You guys are all much cooler than me. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. No. Hi, I'm Bob Mitsch, and I'm a super James Bond fan since 1982 with For Your Eyes Only. Octopussy was my first Bond film in the theater. James Bond is basically my first fandom, the OG, the foundation of all my wonderful nerdomness. I also used to work in film post-production, so that gives me kind of the critical eye. I just love talking James Bond. Oh, and Timothy Dalton is my favorite Bond, but Sean Connery is the best Bond.
I am with you on that, Bob. And then Ryan, who are you?
I'm Ryan Provencher. I've been a Bond fan pretty much my whole life. I work in movie marketing for the last 20 years and actually was very lucky that I got to do some movie marketing for No Time to Die in the last couple of months. In high school, I got to conduct my band doing the Bond theme, and my favorite Bond is Sean Connery, and I think the best Bond is Daniel Craig.
Hey, cool. And my name is Brad Hansen. I'm as big of a James Bond geek as I am a car geek, and that's saying something. Another perspective that I want to give is that of a filmmaker. I used to work on many big movie sets as a production assistant, including Batman Begins. And about 10 years ago, I made a feature film of my own. It was called Driver's Ed Mutiny, which you can watch right here on my YouTube channel if you're interested later. Not a Bond movie, but you can see how many Bond references you can catch. Okay, so here's how we're going to rank these movies. Just like last time in the first 2 episodes, the 5 of us each came up with our own personal 26 movie rankings in secret. We haven't told the others in this group so that it will be a surprise. Also, as before, we've all done our best to rank the Bond movies objectively, removing personal nostalgia from the equation. Now, by personal nostalgia, we mean ranking a Bond movie higher than another based on something that would only matter to you. For example, if Athena were to say that No Time to Die is the best Bond movie just because it was the first time she was able to get out into movie theaters since the pandemic began, that would be her personal nostalgia and won't matter to someone else when it comes time to recommend the movie to them or not. So let's go around and get everyone's rankings just for No Time to Die. And by the way, it's pretty much impossible to talk about this film without spoiling it. So we're going to be spoiling it. Also, as a reminder to the audience, this ranking is worst to best. So 1 is the best, 26 is the worst. And we are including Never Say Never Again in the mix, but ignoring the unofficial Casino Royales. Those are just 2 apples to oranges to make a fair comparison. All right, so let's start with Bob. Where did you rank No Time to Die amongst the 26 movies and why?
No Time to Die is number 26 for me.
Wow. Dead last?
Dead last.
Woo, okay.
Despite it being, I think, a well-directed film, I think it has some fun action sequences. It's not unwatchable. It's not a Ed Wood movie here, guys. I'm not trying to say that. But my ranking just goes off this. Slight tangent, but I promise there's a point. In my recent Columbo book, there's a ranking for the Columbo episodes. The lowest Columbo episode literally says, not Columbo. And this, to me, is not James Bond. Coincidentally, No Time to Die is the title of what's often considered the very worst Columbo episode ever made. So I don't know. I'm just saying. So that's why it's number 26. It's not James Bond to me.
Wow. Okay. All right. Why don't we move on to Ryan?
Well, Bob, I was a little bit kinder. I ranked it 18. I actually enjoyed No Time to Die. I do think it's a Bond movie, but I understand where that's coming from. I think it's really well directed. I think it looks gorgeous. The Cuba sequence is one of the best sequences in any of Craig's films. I think it's fantastic. It was a throwaway line, but I did like that his date was with someone of the same sex. The bad guys from Diamonds Are Forever are not a great representation of the community. So I'd like to think that this is a little bit of a better one. And I really like Craig in this. I think Craig wanted to be in this film. I think he was having fun in this film. So one of the most beautiful things is references to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think it's been an overlooked Bond film from some people's perspective. So the fact that the movie had a chance to reflect a little on that is great. So number 18.
So John, what did you rank No Time to Die?
As I was watching it, probably would fall somewhere in the middle until the ending. And I could be with Bob. I could have put it down at the bottom, but my ranking is number 24.
24. Now, what two movies did you put below No Time to Die?
The World Is Not Enough and Quantum of Solace. There's aspects of No Time to Die that I enjoy quite a bit. I think are quite Bondian. I find a hard time finding anything that I enjoy in Quantum of Solace, and even The World Is Not Enough.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
Athena.
So my ranking for No Time to Die is number 25.
Second to last. Okay.
Second to last. I saw the film 3 times. The direction was done well, and I enjoy the first half quite a bit. There's just things that I felt like were great ideas and it wasn't fleshed out enough in the script. There's elements I would have loved to see explored more, like the Poison Garden and the Spectre Party. I think it could have been much creepier. If this wasn't a Bond film, I'd say this is a pretty decent movie. But the more I think about it as a Bond film, the more annoyed that I get. It loses me at mid-visit to Blofeld. I came for a James Bond movie, not the family drama of Taken 5.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that leaves me. I really wished I loved the movie more, but I am unfortunately kind of on board with a lot of you. I gave this movie 24th out of 26. I'm a little disappointed just because I do feel like this movie is so divisive. Like, I really think if you pulled all James Bond fans, not just us 5, you probably would get like some people who are putting it in the top 10, and then you get a lot of people putting in the bottom 10. But for me, it's 24th. The only 2 I put below it are Man with the Golden Gun is at the bottom for me because I think it's the only Bond movie that's just straight up lazily made. And then Quantum of Solace, which I just find to be pretty much an incoherent mess. And then you got No Time to Die. So to me, it's a big swing, but I think it's a swing and a miss. Kind of like Die Another Day. It's all over the place depending on the scene. There are some really fun sequences, and then you get some really dark sequences, and you have the family soap opera drama. And the movie just seems to vary wildly from scene to scene. This could be because there were so many different writers with so many different styles at play. And I think that's why the movie to me feels so disjointed. I mean, you had the writers of Die Another Day and the writer of Fleabag and the writer of True Detective all working on the script. And it's clearly inspired by On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This movie wants to be On Her Majesty's Secret Service when it grows up. And so you have all these elements crammed into this one movie. And I just don't think it ever gelled into one cohesive vision. So yeah, 24th out of 26 for me. But we'll go through everyone's rundown of kind of what really worked for them, what specifically didn't work for them. So Bob, what are your thoughts?
Let me start with the positive, Brad. Should we start positive? Let's start positive. Yeah. The action is generally pretty good. At least unlike Quantum of Solace, I could follow everything. The car chase in the woods, and there's some fun stuff where Bond is using the cable to get the motorcycle guy. And the Cuba sequence is probably my favorite. He's in a tuxedo again. It's the main part that feels like a Bond movie to me. Ana de Armas is gorgeous, and she's a lot of fun. They make a good team. I almost wish she was in the movie more than Lashana Lynch was. I like his relationship that we see reestablished with Felix in the beginning, that these guys are old pros, and the music score is generally good. It's still Hans Zimmer-esque in parts with more of that rhythmic kind of quality. I call it the Dark Knight quality that he
Yeah.
puts on a lot of his more modern scores. But he's definitely echoing a lot of good John Barry stuff. Of course, the Majesties music was in there. I'm torn about that one, Ryan, because I love Majesties and I love that score and I see what they were doing, but I don't think Daniel Craig should have any right to have George Lazenby's theme. And my feeling on that is the Craig films are their own continuity. They have nothing to do pre-2002. And to echo that music and what that evokes is very strange to me. It's like, well, this Bond wasn't married. His wife didn't die. So why is this coming back in? If you want to say the line, we have all the time in the world, okay. But to lay it on twice was, I think, heavy-handed. And really, the other big thing involves Safin. Bond doesn't even know about Safin, period, until 2/3 of the way in the movie. It's almost at the 2-hour mark he finds out about Safin from Swan. He needs to at least know who he's up against in the first act. That's just weird. And then Safin is doing his job for him by knocking off Spectre and knocking off Blofeld. I know he strangles him, but it's really Safin who takes him out. And I'm like, it does not feel good when Bond's job is being done for him by other people. That's a little part of why I didn't like Casino Royale as much as you, Brad, because Le Chiffre gets taken out by his own guys. Bond doesn't really get to take him out. It doesn't set well with me.
You're right. Bond is unaware of the villain until the third act. There should be no Blofeld. Bond and Gurley go to Cuba at a Spectre party, and maybe he suspects and then they're all killed. There's a larger threat. There's someone else, and that someone else is Safin. And we must come together now, even though we don't get agreed. You know, CIA versus MI6, 007 versus James Bond. Now we got to come together to focus on this guy. It goes to I don't know how many scripts if they've tried to mesh into one. It's ridiculous. And it is because Blofeld is in there, because they got to have the connected story, because they got to have Swan. And it leads to just the general muddleness of the movie and the underwriting of Safin.
I mean, the title sequence is super too long. It almost doesn't feel like a Bond film. Most pre-title sequences, it's like a little mini Bond adventure. And at the end, Bond triumphs. Bond blows up the base or escapes in the plane or whatever. And this, it's Bond puts a girl he loves on a train and it's like, da 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 da.
And if you notice, she's pregnant, and we don't even get the blood dribbling down. Come on.
Do you want me to get into the gun barrel, Athena? I could talk gun barrels all day. I like the fact we have a gun barrel at the beginning, but yes, no blood is kind of sacrilege.
I agree with you. You got to have the blood. Like, look at Athena's shirt. That shirt doesn't look right without the blood. Look at your shirt. Doesn't look right. Look at the Living Daylights poster behind you, Bob. That all works because of the blood. It is like erasing the Mona Lisa's smile off of that painting.
But that just plays with the whole movie where it's like, we're kind of giving you Bond, but we're not really giving you Bond. James Bond is essentially a male escapist fantasy. And I can't tell you that I've ever fantasized about having my best friend getting killed, having a random kid I didn't know about, losing the woman I love, getting killed, and also finding out my boss was sort of behind the whole plot inadvertently. Like, come on, this isn't James Bond. Give me a break.
You know, and also the kinds of movies and themes we're talking about. Not every movie has to be King Lear. I actually like when they put like a little bit of some personal drama, like they did in Spy Who Loved Me with the competing agent. Even the stuff with Tomorrow Never Dies and Paris Carver, you know, someone from his past. Just put a little bit in there. I need a sprinkle. I don't want that to be the entire dish on my Bond pie. You know, I just need a sprinkling of that. Ryan, what were things that you liked or didn't like about No Time to Die?
You've got a hard job here. You're going to be the defender.
I have a hard job. So one thing I thought was really interesting is the movie starts off with a mother and daughter, and the movie ends with a mother and daughter. I think the movie begins and ends and dovetails very well. I love Paloma. I would have had her more in the film, to be honest. She's absolutely stunning. She's a great actress. When he stops and makes a drink for both of them, that is quintessential Bond. It's wonderful. It's ridiculous, but that's Bond, and it's wonderful.
We got that, you know, suave secret agent, the fight scenes, the chemistry between them. It was all there.
And he got some humor in that sequence that Craig isn't always great at humor. And I think it played actually really well with her. The very beginning of the title sequence is, I think, very indicative of Dr. No, with the zeros and coming in. I thought that was a nice, subtle reference. I get the On Her Majesty's Secret Service references being a bit much. I actually love the score. I love Bond with Felix doing the coin scene. I didn't exactly understand how that game worked, but
neither did I. Yeah.
But to me, that didn't matter. It was just them having fun. I bought Madeline and his relationship more than a lot of people did. I didn't in Spectre at all. When he walks away with her at the end of Spectre, I was like, why do you care? Their relationship was written better in this
Agreed.
film.
I did like their relationship better in this movie too, and I did buy it. Which, by the whole motive, the whole reason he doesn't trust her is they knew I was here. You know, you rolled into town in a 1964 Aston Martin, and Spectre knows everything.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Maybe they just figured it out. Maybe you don't have to now shit can your whole relationship because how could they possibly know James Bond is here? You're in Italy. That's the home of Spectre. I think the thing is she talks him into going to Vesper's grave and Vesper's grave blows up. Is that why he's so like, you specifically told me to go there, but she didn't really?
I think the idea, and again, I don't think it's fleshed out very well, is that Bond is sort of triggered, right, from past relationships with women who turned out to be like Vesper, who turned out to be actually working for an enemy agent. And I think that he's just kind of triggered in almost a rage to just be like, we're done. Bad judgment. I did it again. You're out of here. You know,
I think when Blofeld appears on the phone, you sort of, that's kind of the moment, right? That he really falls for it. It's like, why are you suddenly trusting Blofeld now? Like, right? Is this the guy that you're okay with? He left a voice message. Obviously, that has solved everything. From a storytelling point, I think that's what they meant to do. Some of the things I don't like. I think Logan Ash was far too easy to understand he was the villain. The second he smiled, I was like, yeah, he's not going to be a good guy. I think the strength in Bond films is really, really dependent on the villains. I still think Blofeld is weak. Safin is not a great villain. I never 100% knew his motives.
I feel like his motivations for revenge against Spectre are really cool. Like that was that reminded me in a weird way of that GoldenEye Rogue Agent game, where it was Goldfinger versus Spectre. But then once he's wiped out Spectre, then I'm not super clear on what he's up to or why he's doing it.
I felt like Safin's explanation was he had no control over the death of his family. He was too young to get involved, right? If he can't have control over that, he's going to make everyone else's life chaos too. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's vague.
It is.
I get it, but honestly, I like the Bond villain kind of thing of where everything is explained. You know, tell me exactly what your reasoning is, very simply in one moment, so everyone knows. So I don't think that
also happens. Like knowing what his plan is, and they forget that part. Oh, let me tell you about my upbringing. But then it's like, what's your plan, dude? Now, again, we get a villain, great actor, great. Let's give him a backstory, and then they forget to give him a plot.
Safin gets shot at the beginning. There's no explanation how he survived that. I assume he had a bulletproof vest.
Or is his heart on the other side? Because he is shot on the left side. And what is it in Dr. No? His heart's on the right side.
That's from the book, that Dr. No's heart is on the wrong side. Therefore, shooting him and him not dying is one of the things that tells you he's Dr. No. Those masks are called a no mask.
Yeah.
At one point in the end, he's called Doctor. Someone comes up to him and calls him Doctor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just make him Dr. No. I was so waiting for that to happen.
Why are we asking any of these questions is my big problem. There's so much in this movie, even if it's such a long movie, that you just are so unclear about. I think the Mission Impossible movies are so good at just clarity. Just people say what's happening. There's none of this, wait, why did that happen? Why did the guy go over there? You always know. It's very, very clear.
But here's my other thing. Well, then he lets Matilda go super easy. She just bites his finger and he's like, yeah, okay, run along, kid.
Safin is like, I'll trade you. Like, take your kid and go. Like, he really just wants Madeline. She's using the kid as a bargaining chip. Doesn't care to keep the kid at all.
But then doesn't keep his bargaining chip.
Well, because Bond has already said, screw that. I'm going to try to shoot you anyway. So, yeah, then he's just annoyed, I guess.
It would have been better if they were in the Garden of Death. And he just, okay, walk away. Okay, go.
Oh, yeah.
Go and, that was a really, to let a child loose, should have been in the Garden of Death.
Now, something I did love, there's a lot of You Only Live Twice in this movie from the book.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of that. I love the book. And I'm just going to read this. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I so use my time. That's from You Only Live Twice at the very end in Bond's obituary. Some of the ties to You Only Live Twice, the book, were quite nice.
All right, have John, let's have you go next.
I can tell you what I like and don't like, sort of my experience of the movie. Right from the beginning, I loved it. I actually saw the international version, and the universal globe becomes the dot and it becomes the gun barrel, and the music is really good there. I didn't even notice no blood. The opening with the flashback, I don't know why we had that. I think it could go. It wasn't a pre-title sequence. Bob is right. It's the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then they just stick the titles in there. So I'm like, gosh, a super long pre-title sequence. Last time I saw this happen was World Is Not Enough, and what came after wasn't great. But the Aston Martin, when he said we have all the time in the world, and when the music came in, I was like, this is bold, but it's beautiful, and I loved it. I love that there seems to be a standalone good Bond movie in here. You know, a retired Bond recruited to work for the CIA on the same mission that MI6 has put the new 007 on, and they're going back and forth. Great. The idea of the villain also, I like. I love seeing the Garden of Death. Finally. The Daylight's Aston Martin. Lots of elements I love. But very quickly into the movie, I was like, people are going to disagree with me, but I don't like Daniel Craig in this movie. I don't think he's being Bond. He seems to be almost doing his character from Knives Out. When he's standing in front of Blofeld, he's just talking. I'm going to talk my way through this, and I'm going to think about this, and I'm going to talk, and I'm going to move my hand. I'm like, who is this guy? What happened to the cool? He talks too much. He scolds M. I'm not on board with it.
In Skyfall, he barely speaks. He's very minimalist dialogue, almost like a cowboy. You know, he only speaks when he needs to, and that's kind of it.
But he projects. He's there. It's behind the eyes. It's Bondian. Yeah. The same thing with Casino Royale. That's what Daniel Craig's Bond is, man.
I think this is how this was written, because Mallory as well seems like a completely different character. This is not the Mallory we have seen before, who is very by the book. And now he's off like helping create this viral weapon under the radar. Like, this is very odd.
Right. Especially Mallory, because his whole thing is like transparency. Like, no one voted on this Nine Eyes project. And here he is doing something even worse without even the government knowing what he's up to.
I think why the argument works with Bond and Mallory is Bond is kind of looking at it from an outside in. He hasn't been back in a while. And I think he feels he's not under Mallory's control anymore. So if he wants to talk about his drinking problem, he can. I think that's a little bit of a different Bond. And not to say that I don't understand John, but that's, for me personally, I think it works a little.
And I think you're right. And I think that's one of the things with this movie. It's like, no, you've got to intellectually understand what we're doing here. We're doing something very sophisticated. I don't want to intellectually understand what you're doing here. I want a Bond movie. So midway through, I'm like, well, this is a messy one, but I'll just sit and watch it. Here comes Madeline Swan. I didn't love her at Inspector. I didn't think they should continue the connected story. And then the ending, which is a mess, and then we're right back Inspector time. It's like we're in a third act, which is completely underdeveloped. It's all over the place. And then, you know, we'll talk about it more in detail, but Bond dying, Bond can die in a movie. You could do that, but it's how they did it. So threw me out in a way that I never thought would happen to me in a James Bond movie. It threw me out in the way that Athena would be thrown out of a movie if they kill a cat. I was just out of this movie, and I was out of this series, and I checked out until James Bond Return showed up. And then I was like, okay, you went for something. I think you guys tanked, but we'll come back. We'll do another one. And, you know, I hope you'll look at what went wrong and give us what we want, because for me, man, it wasn't what I wanted. I don't want connected story. I don't want family drama. I don't want my hero to die in the end. And this movie, which is fine, it's medium Bond, became the Bond movie I wish didn't exist. So, yeah.
All right, we'll talk more about the ending later. So, Athena, what did you think of No Time to Die? What worked? What didn't work?
What I loved was finally seeing Q's cats. The scenes in Jamaica and Cuba, I agree, they were great. That pre-title chase sequence, enjoyed that. We saw the movie one time in 4DX, and so the roller coaster ride of that chase sequence was a lot of fun. Oberchef, is that how you say his name? The scientist, I was very amused by his character, a bit over the top, making really, really dark jokes when he's picked on by his coworkers. I do think Rami Malek was underutilized. Like, what's this poison garden? I want to see more of that. Like, I want Bond locations to be almost a character. And they just kind of felt like, yeah, there's that building.
The whole weird thing with the guys in the pool was, I was trying to figure that out too. I'm like, do they need pools to raise these nanobots?
Yeah, those details of what actually was going on, I wanted to know, because you would get that in some, villain exposition probably in the past. And why is there water? Are they mixing germs in there? Is that why they're in the suits? Is it really not acid, but someone fell in and it's touching their skin? And why is there hazmat suit guy in the poison garden when we first see it in the water, making sure he's not touching the water? But then later we have Bond and Safin in the water and it's doing nothing to them. Is that a different water than what's down there? I've just got all these water questions.
You have a pool of water with a door that opens, right? And it's like, well, where's the cool villain death where he kills Safin with the door that opens and he falls into the acid pit and he dies? Like, that should have been the way he went out. And instead it was just, we're going to play this sort of dramatic scene where, he gets the virus and he just shoots him. And I'm like, well, that's all right, that was lame.
So we've got Bond, with Madeline. So they probably didn't have him romancing any other women because they wanted to strengthen that relationship. But come on, our new 007 is asking, why is this man all affecting women? What's so great about him? Why doesn't she find out? I think they should have slept together. Then she has her answers and she's been sneaky enough to get into bed with him.
I never thought about that. They should have slept together. I wanted the movie to be about them. I wanted them to have a back and forth, and that would have been something. She might have done that just to do it. And then guess what? I'm 007.
Yeah, now she knows everything. The Logan Ash character. What is this? You just stuck the Bond fan in the film? This is as bad as Rose as the Rebel fan in Star Wars The Last Jedi. I don't want to see a fan in a movie that I'm really wanting to watch. I am the fan. We are the fans. Give us something to fan about, not killing our defeated hero. So what's the deal with Blofeld's eye? Did he have a real eye that was damaged at the end of Spectre? If he did, was he given a fake eye that was sneakily snuck in by someone who wired him up so that Cyclops' eye could communicate with his eye while he's in MI6? So how did this security breach happen past MI6, past Q? Did he always have the mechanical eye? I don't think so.
If he did, it was really noticeable in the other guy. It was like, you absolutely noticed he did not have a real eye. So it's weird. It's 100% weird, Athena. You're absolutely right.
What is it? Primo? Okay, what's the deal with him? Is he not a Spectre agent? Why didn't he go down during Blofeld's party? Is he just a side character, a hitman, a mercenary? What's going on? The man holding his eyeball went down and Cyclops picks it up, pops it in his socket. Why isn't he going down? We already know I'm annoyed that Mallory seems like a different character and basically sends Bond on a mission to save the world. But really, is he really saving the world? No, he seems like you just want your tracks covered up, Mallory. So Bond is killed because ultimately Mallory does push that missile launch button. So I blame him for everything. It's all Mallory's fault.
All right, so that leaves my thoughts. So like I said, it's 24th out of 26 for me, but there are a lot of positives here. I think Matera is a gorgeous yet dangerous looking location. I love that he had a car chase there because it's so narrow and confined and full of stone walls. It's a great claustrophobic car chase. I love the new DB5 gadgets. It's fun to see a sort of like DB5 2.0. And as a car guy, I love little touches like the shells coming out of the Gatling gun exiting the vents on the side of the hood, or the shot of the tack bouncing off the rev limiter as Bond's doing donuts. It's kind of a bummer, though. The car seems to be just unceremoniously dumped in a lake at the end of it. I think that's what the title sequence is inferring. I love seeing the Aston Martin V8 from Living Daylights. I wish it did more in the movie, but honestly, I think it's a much better fit for Craig's Bond than the DB5, to the point that I wish that was Craig's car instead of the DB5 in the whole series, because the V8 is a brutal, heavy battering ram of a car. And that fits Craig's persona a lot better than a DB5, which is kind of delicate and small and graceful. So I thought the Aston Martin V8, better late than never. The other thing was the movie's super weapon with the nanobot virus. I actually liked that. Rewatching the last two Craig movies is just basically the bad guy's plot or bad guy's mechanism or super weapon is just computers or data, and it's just kind of boring and I don't care. So it's nice to have global stakes that felt a little sci-fi, little more Bondian, to play on current fears that we have about viruses and how they can pass from person to person without you knowing it. The biggest problem, which we'll get into more later, is Bond's death scene is just, it's so horribly bungled on so many levels. I agree with you, John. There are ways to handle big movie character deaths well, like in Logan or Star Trek Wrath of Khan with Spock. This is just a disaster. This movie's like the anti-GoldenEye, right? GoldenEye took 6 years to bring Bond back to life. No Time to Die took 6 years to kill him off. Part of why the death scene doesn't work is they ignore a core component to Daniel Craig's Bond. One of the very first interviews he did was on Charlie Rose.
And certainly, I mean, at one sequence, he's tortured, and he genuinely thinks at that point it's all over. I mean, he thinks that that's the end. But I like the fact that hopefully that we see someone who knows it's the end but won't give up. And that's, I think, one of the things that defines him.
He will not give up.
Will never give up. No.
And if you watch the other movies, he never gives up. He'll be fighting. If he's chasing a guy, he's not going to let anything stop him. He's going to run through a wall. He's going to do whatever it takes to get that bad guy. He's never, ever going to get up till his mission is completed. And yeah, the ending feels like he's just a defeat. I don't even like him at the beginning where he kind of gives up in the car and they're surrounded by people with guns. And he's like, nah, just kill me. Again, it didn't feel like Craig's Bond to me. Bond's daughter, it's weird, but there is that precedent set with Bond having a son and he only lived twice books, so I can deal with it. But I hate how they screw up the reveal that it's his daughter. Why do they play this whole ambiguous is she or isn't she thing? Just have Madeline say that it's his daughter right away. Then the next action sequence, when they're under attack, Bond knows that it isn't just some random girl, it's his daughter. That raises the stakes of that action sequence and could show us another side of Bond as a fatherly protector that we haven't seen before. I think that the idea is Madeline reveals it to Bond right before he dies. But at that point, he already knows it. Everyone already knows it. So again, it's another daring thing that they tried to do in this movie that they just dramatically dropped the ball on.
I knew that she was pregnant the moment those doors closed of that train because she puts her hand on her stomach. So the whole time I'm like, when's this kid showing up? Oh, there's the kid. Oh, not telling him it's Bond. It's definitely Bond's kid. This was not a surprise. This was not a reveal. I was waiting for the annoyance of the child entering my action movie.
I was confused because the little girl shows up. Madeline says it's not yours, by the way. And I took her on her word. Okay. But then midway through the ending, Bond's talking to the bad guy. And there's an assumption that it is his daughter. And I'm like, oh, it is his daughter. When did they say that? Okay, I guess it is his daughter. And then at the end, it's the moment where, she confirms it's your daughter. And I'm like, wait, but we already knew that? Oh, I must have missed it somehow. So it was all messed up. And that's too bad because I like the idea of Bond having a child. It does come from the books and great. But again, just mishandled.
I think Craig knows when he's telling Safin, don't hurt her. I think that's the moment that Bond is 100% sure it's his. I think he's just made the decision that he knows it's his kid.
But for me, it's more a question: what does the audience know, and when do they need to know it?
It's lazy writing. It's lazy writing,
or it's just they're so up their own what have yous with their intellectualizing, saying, "Well, of course she would say no, but Bond knows it is, and the audience will understand that because this is subtle drama." No, it's not. It's a James Bond movie. There's a lot going on. People have to say what they mean because these aren't layered dramas, people, and so suddenly it's confusing in the end because, well, no, you didn't read the layers right of his performance. Like, no, tell us. Right. It's a James Bond movie. They're sort of bewitched by Casino Royale and Skyfall. It's like we went down a dramatic path, more dramatic than we've ever done, and we got the formula right. It's a Bond movie, but it's dramatic, and they're trying to do it each time. And so, get Phoebe in here, have her write it right. Just add more drama. Yeah, the audience isn't with you because you haven't given them the fundamentals of an exciting story.
I feel like they had good ideas and they just didn't have enough of screenplay polish, or maybe one person at the end to kind of bring everything together. Usually they do. But in this one, I don't think they really did. My understanding is the last person to write it was the Fleabag writer. And I think that she came in and punched up little lines of dialogue and added some more character beats. But I don't think there was that final pass that they really needed. Maybe they ran out of time. I don't know what.
I agree. And I think that happened with Spectre. You need a structuralist to come in. The Fleabag writer, she's a dialogue writer and a brilliant one for the kind of thing she writes. Not for a James Bond movie. I think she wrote all those Daniel Craig speeches that he gives that aren't Bondian, that aren't in his character. And I think he loved it because it's her. And they're just kind of doing their actor and precious writer stuff. There needed to be a structuralist to come in at the end and say, okay, let's chop that out. Let's chop this down. We need to clarify this. Do not make it subtle. Let's make the audience clear if this is the daughter or not. Everyone got their precious thing. And then at some point, someone forgot to give the villain a plot. Like, oh, have a shot of 2 boats coming, and that's it. Some boats are coming. And someone's going to buy something and maybe do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's it.
Yeah.
But is it Safin's plan? Because the scientist guy's like, oh, we're gonna do these things, and then the buyers are coming. Like, so are the buyers coming to do this? Is Safin planning to do this? Because those two are different things.
Yeah,
like,
we thought it was Safin.
What's the threat? What's the ticking clock? What's the reason why they're launching an attack on it isn't there?
Yeah, why can't someone just boat out to those boats and say, hey, guys, you're in big trouble. You were getting rid of you all. Like, why?
Exactly. That is,
or just blow them up.
It. Oh, yeah, or just stop them. Just pull up to them and say, pull over.
Get rid of them. Take time to think about, do you want to destroy this big thing? Are all of these nanobots and germs now going to go out into the ocean and infect everyone just like Fukushima? Like, what did they just do? They could have waited, got rid of the boats. Think about what they're doing before they blow up this big base.
There's just a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense. The thing with the bomb at Vesper's grave, what tripped the bomb exactly? Was it the card? What if someone else picked up the card? What if wind blew it away? And no matter
it was the kid. It was the kid. The kid set the bomb.
The kid set the bomb. Was the card the trigger?
I think the kid just watched him make that realization, and then that the bomb went off. The bomb was supposed to kill him.
Yeah, I do believe that the people taking care of the gravesite are in on this. Even when you see Bond running, back to the bridge, you see the telephone in the first building that he checks into is dropped. The guys are missing. They are aware that someone's paid them off to set this bomb off. When this gentleman comes, you need to watch him. You need to make sure he's in the right place, and you need to set this off. That's how I saw that working.
Okay, but beyond that, why didn't the bomb kill Bond? I mean, Bond is standing right there. Did they mess up? Did they not put the correct amount of explosive? Why didn't it kill Bond? Was it not supposed to kill Bond? Was it just supposed to make him scared and think that Madeline Swan did it? And if that's the case, why were all these goons just lying in wait in Matera for Bond? Were they just lying in wait for years until Bond showed up? And then the thing with Blofeld's eye is bizarre. And then the thing with the gas and why it didn't kill Primo is bizarre. And look, do I need every Bond movie to make complete sense? No. I love Skyfall, and that movie is riddled with things that don't make sense, but I enjoy the ride that Skyfall puts me on, because it's not a challenging movie to understand or follow. It has clear themes and character work that run seamlessly throughout. It feels like a cohesive vision and a singular story in a way that No Time to Die does not. No Time to Die is by design. It's a challenging Bond movie. It challenges you to maybe watch the movie again to see how you felt about it, to really think about the movie and ponder it. But because it's such a disjointed mess of a story, the more you think about it, the more it falls apart. So ultimately, I ranked it third to last because while there are some good elements, and I do applaud the movie for being daring enough to swing for the fences, ultimately, it's a swing and a miss for me.
Side note, did anyone notice in the corridor when Tanner is filling M in, there's paintings there's Judi Dench and
Robert Brown.
Yeah. And then it made me go, what's Robert Brown doing up here? What continuity are we in? I know this is getting deep dive, but it's is there another Robert Brown in this universe that never ordered Timothy Dalton around? Is that what's going on? This opens up a whole nother problem with the Aston Martin and why it has gadgets in Skyfall again. It's
or why does Felix say we're back in this again, though, buddy? Oh, we've gotten out of worse situations. When have you ever been together in a life-threatening situation? Never. So in my head canon, Bob, in between Quantum and Skyfall, he had all those adventures or something similar enough to them. And then we start Skyfall. And then, so to me, that's the headcanon that kind of ties it together. But, I doubt that the filmmakers thought that hard about it.
You're right. Unfortunately, we fans think way too much about this stuff.
Let's move on to talk about the most divisive thing about the movie, which is just the ending. What do you guys think about the death of James Bond?
I don't know if I felt angry, but I definitely felt numb, like death of a loved one. I had to go home and watch Moonraker and Spy Who Loved Me like right away to kind of bring me back up, you know?
It took me days. I was like depressed.
Yeah, I was in a funk too.
I was in a funk. And I realized, it isn't that I'm a super fan who doesn't want to see Bond die. I said, but I didn't see Bond die. I saw Bond defeated. The villain got him, poisoned him, put him into a box. Bond was defeated, and all he could do was allow himself to be annihilated before my eyes. Bond lost.
Okay, that's a really interesting thought.
Kills himself, and that was upsetting. That is no fun, and that is not James Bond. There are other ways to do this. There are ways you could have saved him, and that's why I just left that movie mentally at that moment.
Craig's Bond has been tormented his entire run of films, and he dies tormented. He's attempting his whole time to get away from Her Majesty's Secret Service, and yet it was the service that ultimately was the thing that killed him.
Good point. Here would have been a great out. I don't want to rewrite the movie. You want to kill Bond? There's a reason. There's a reason he has to stay there. He's got to hold the door open, and he sees the missiles coming out, and he says, this never happened to the other fellows, and boom, and we're laughing and crying and saying that's the most Bondian, badass, cool death ever. There's ways to do it. This wasn't the way to do it. Nor did it earn it, and that's the thing. It's a bad movie. Skyfall gets you to a place of killing M, and it's a good movie, and you are brought to a place of a dramatic ending that you really are with. Skyfall's sort of about death, it's Bond's metaphorical death in the beginning. Death is coming in that movie, and it's both tragic but also liberating. And at the end, Bond and the flag, he's standing on that roof. Bond is solid and England is secure, and there's a new M, and it's the old office, and I'm ready for work. And that's just like, out of the death came the birth of pure James Bond. This movie didn't warn me at all that we're going to get to this place.
It kind of comes out of left field. It doesn't feel inevitable. It feels kind of like, okay, we're doing this now. Okay. The other issues I have is it's Bond is giving up too much. First of all, rewatching Casino Royale, Bond is really good at spotting and thinking about, is the villain bluffing? All he has is Rami Malek's word that whatever he got scratched with is actually going to do that. Rami Malek was getting his butt kicked. He'd just be making something up to make Bond stop killing him. I
didn't even think about that. Just at the beginning where they're like, it was Madeline.
So A, why does he believe? Why does he take his word for it? B, you're telling me in this universe, Q can fix anything. He's like a mechanical, electrical genius. I do not believe that if Bond could have found a way to get off the island, that at some point in the future, Q could have done a blood transfusion or something to figure out how to really stop this.
I mean, he has an EMP watch that should take out these nanobots, and that doesn't come back into play. It's like, what's going on here?
And knowing that he had been shot twice as well. And he was shot in pretty bad areas. It wasn't just breaking his rib. He would have died from those wounds at some point. So I believed in that.
I don't believe that he's mortally wounded in this case. The series has set up Bond as being pretty much like this unstoppable guy. He's been through so much worse. I mean, he got shot in Skyfall twice, fell 10 stories in the water, and it was fine. Honestly, I kind of was hoping, praying that at that point he would have looked over and seen a balloon, You Only Live Twice, the book, picked up the balloon, and off he goes. And then maybe you do a Dark Knight Rises thing where you wonder, is Bond dead? Is he not dead? And then you reveal that he's alive at the end. Oh my gosh, that would have been so much better. It would have been like
the balloon. That's, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of better things that could have been done. You're right. Bond, and especially Craig's Bond, is a guy who never gives up. And that's true of all heroes. And that's what makes the Mission Impossible movies great. We just watch him and he just won't stop. He won't stop running. He just won't stop. He doesn't give up. No matter what James Bond is faced at, and the whole point of Bond movies is he's in an impossible death trap. There's no way out, yet somehow he gets out. That's what we love. Let us hang in that space. Let us think you're going to kill him. Pull it out in the end.
Yeah.
Not let us all suffer. There was a rumor, and I think it was true, that an original title was A Reason to Die, which I think is a cool title. A Reason to Die. And you could see them in their story discussions probably saying, we need a reason for Bond to die. A reason, meaning a sacrifice. And they kept trying to find it, but they couldn't because there was never a plot that would make it essential that he stay there. And I think someone said, the reason could be he can never touch Madeline again. He can never touch his child. And someone said that is a reason to die. If you can never touch the person you love, that is a reason to die. But not in a James Bond movie, it isn't.
I'm going to do my defending again. I believed enough in their relationship, and Zoom is not enough for Bond, I don't think. So, hey, we can Zoom every other Wednesday and it'll be fine. John, I understand the argument that this is a Bond film and that doesn't feel right for a Bond film, right? I would argue a little bit differently. I think the Craig Bond films are a different animal. I don't mind Bond always getting out of it. And honestly, I love the last line of the movie. It ties to the beginning was, let me tell you about this man, James Bond, James Bond, I think is what she says. I love that. That's the idea of the legacy of Bond continuing, and that allows the audience to believe he will come back in some form later on. So again, I have issues with the ending, but because I believed in his relationship with Madeline, and I think there needs to be someone that's going to believe in it of the five of us sitting here. So
I think you can believe in it if you choose to believe in it. And I think I would have if it was a better movie. And I saw was them trying to make me cry. Look at how daring we are. We're going to kill Bond. And I'm like,
I got very emotional when M died at the end of Skyfall. I did not feel the same way at the end of No Time to... And I listen, I cry at Kleenex commercials. So there isn't a problem for me to get emotionally invested. I didn't as much with this. And I think that's part of the problem is the movie doesn't 100% earn it. I think it earns it more than you guys think it does. We have all the time in the world. Song at the end did it for me as well. I love Louis Armstrong. I know other people had. I get it. I get it, Bob. I kind of loved it at the end of the movie.
I mean, my problem is that like I love that song. We played it at our wedding. It is like a terrific love song about falling in love, and now it's like a funeral pyre in my brain. This movie has kind of ruined it.
It seemed odd that was played at the end. We have all the time. No, you don't have the time. Everyone had all the time to die, and everyone did die. I mean, not everyone, but the end of Spectre was as definitive as I personally need the ending of my Bond leaving. He is, off and joining somebody that he can be with. And do we need to know more than that? That ending in Spectre, it leaves you with hope. Like there's hope for tomorrow. Like he can decide to get away from all of this that has been like pulling him down, and he now can write his own life. But then you've got this new movie. It's like, wait, just kidding. You're all doomed. And after waiting all this time and having the delays, etc., had it not been delayed, probably still would have been peeved, but it was that extra punch that we had waited so long for this to happen.
And we had all suffered, I mean, you can't blame them for this, but you're right, Athena. I mean, it's like, this is, hey, let's get back to feeling good. And who makes you feel better than James Bond? Who gives you more hope than James Bond? Who never loses? James Bond. And the James Bond movie where he loses, defeated and annihilated horribly.
Right. They could have had a very positive ending. James Bond could have driven off in the sunset at the wheel of his Aston Martin V8 with a baby seat and his child in the back where the cello used to be, and that would have been weird maybe, but at least it would have been a positive ending. But instead they went for a very negative ending that just doesn't seem to me to really make you walk out of the theater a few inches taller, which is how I like to feel at the end of a Bond movie. There have been Bond movies where there's been, dramatic death scenes at the end. I mean, Majesty is I thought learned its lesson and like literally having you end right on this dour note. If I have any criticism of Majesty's, is like they really end you on the gut punch. I felt that they learned from that with Casino Royale and Skyfall, where they both end on very dramatic death scenes. But then you have a few more scenes at the end that kind of make you feel good. So it's a very dour note in these times, especially to, you know, have this movie end on. And I get that they were tempted because it was like, this is, I think, the only movie where they knew for sure that this is going to be the last hurrah of the lead actor, except for maybe Diamonds Are Forever. I think all the other ones, they weren't 100% sure when they were going in.
View to a Kill, I know when it was marketed, when it came out, it was definitely known it was Roger Moore's last. That was publicized.
Okay. Sure.
And I remember being a fresh Bond fan of 8 years old. I was all excited to see the new Roger Moore James Bond film. And what did my big brother do? And if he's watching this, he'll be laughing. He said, oh, yeah, I saw it already. I was like, yeah, is it good? He's like, oh, they kill him. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, they kill James Bond. I'm like, they don't kill. He's like, yeah, that's why it's Roger Moore's last one. They kill him. And I'm like, they can't kill James Bond. How? How do they kill him? He's like, oh, they blow him up. You see his arms and legs and eyeballs fly everywhere. And I'm like, no. So I watched A View to a Kill as an 8-year-old, white knuckled in the movie theater, waiting for James Bond to die. And when he didn't, I was like, hey, he didn't die. And he just laughed at me. He's like, you're so gullible. So I need to call him and say, well, you called it. James Bond died and he blew up, but you just called it 36 years too early. Thank you so much for rooting.
That is a great story. That is great.
That is fantastic. I'm going to make one more argument about the last moment of the movie because again, someone has to do some defending here. I argue why the song works is because Bond does say to her, you have all the time in the world, right?
Right
before he dies, he says, you have all the, and she's in the car and she now has all the time in the world with her daughter. This is going to sound really schmaltzy, but Bond really doesn't die because the legacy of him is going to continue in his daughter and is going to continue in Madeline. And I think that's why the song works. In a way, he didn't give up, because he had these two people there that were going to continue it. I'm not saying Madeline was going to become a spy or anything, but it's that moment that he's still going to be with us.
And you know how you're talking, Ryan, this is what they were saying to each other in the room. You make a beautiful case for, yes, that is wonderful. Let's do it. But no, fundamentally, what are we doing here? We're showing James Bond be defeated. We can't have that.
Actually, Ryan, I'm really glad you said that because I think I'm finally understanding why some people love the end of this movie, which is the more universal idea that after you're gone, the people that you love continue your legacy, right?
Yep.
Okay, I can get on board with that. I just wish that, like John, I think the minute they killed Bond, I kind of checked out mentally.
Yeah, I checked out and I was like, oh, okay. So now we have a traumatized mother and a traumatized daughter, and they're going to go off and be traumatized together. And like, that isn't really a pleasant ending in my mind.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the other thing about killing Bond in concept is that I think, especially these days, it's comforting to think that I know James Bond isn't real. I get that. I get that he's a fantasy. But there's a part of you that wants to believe that there is a guy out there like James Bond who is saving the world, who we don't know about, who is always going to do the right thing, who's never going to give up, who's incorruptible. And he's out there saving the world when we are asleep at night. And this movie, on a sort of subconscious level, punches you in the gut with that kind of fantasy. Nope, he's fallible. He'll die. He'll give up.
You know, that guy is out there. And I hate to say it. His name is Ethan Hunt and Mission Impossible. I can't wait for the next Mission Impossible movies. They are these great movies where you can be sure of seeing amazing stunts, great locations, a hero who never gives up and always wins, and a breathtaking ride.
And they get better each time.
And they get better each time. What they say is, we need a bigger and better stunt. We need to just get the tension in these things dialed to a point where the audience is going insane. And that's all the stuff that they kind of have set aside in the Bond movie. Like, no, we need drama. It'll be a couple boats. Throw in a couple boats. A shot of a couple boats in the world. Don't worry. Everyone at Eon needs to sit there and watch Fallout with their eyes held open and just saying, this is what you make.
I actually think this ending could have maybe worked if this was a 70s movie where everyone dies and the ending's a downer.
And what we loved about James Bond movies in the 70s is they didn't end that way. Mm-hmm. You know, they ended with Roger Moore and Barbara Bach on a raft saying, keeping the British end up, sir. And we're like, what? It's great. In these hard times, there's always Bond, and that's what we love.
I do not think you should ever, for any reason, kill James Bond. maybe in the books, not in the movies. Movies like On Her Majesty's and Skyfall and License, they're about as far as I think you want to take that Bond concept in that direction. I feel like the table was wobbling with Felix dying and the Madeline Swan thing and the kid thing and the weak villain, all these other problems. And then it just collapses the minute you kill Bond. No Time to Die doesn't bring down Bond, but it brings down the Craig era. Like a lot of my rankings have changed in that a lot of the Craig films have dropped just by association with this movie. That's how bad this movie, like, I don't know, kind of pollutes my soul. I don't know what else to say. It's just
the Craig era now is a mostly bad era with two masterpieces, which is so strange.
Yeah,
It's a weird era.
Okay, that's No Time to Die. But because it's been 4 years since we last got all together and did our rankings, a lot of us will rewatch the movies. We've lost both Roger Moore and Sean Connery in that time. Perhaps our thoughts have changed on these movies. I know mine sure did. So what we're going to do right now is just kind of quickly go around and get just maybe the top few movies that changed in your rankings in the past 4 years. Bob, why don't we start with you? Which of those rankings have changed the most this time?
Well, as you know, Brad, we've rewatched a couple of Bonds together. We bonded over Bond. Those movies in particular have actually gone up my list. But the biggest changes, personally say Living Daylights is now number 4, where it should be.
You know, I just realized, Bob, Living Daylights has moved up 4 ticks in mine too.
Yeah.
Wow. And guess what, Bob? It moved up in mine a little bit too. Living Daylights, for some reason, seems to have an appreciation.
It's appreciation for Dalton. It's wonderful that we had Dalton. Yep. A great Bond helps.
Skyfall has fallen. It's Sky fallen to number 7. And most of that is just, I hate to say it, it's the lead weight of No Time to Die. It was at number 4. Thunderball has gone up from 15 to 12. In my appreciation of Connery. I know you and I saw it like, a year or two ago, Brad?
Yeah, and I have to say, it just somehow worked for me. Bob, you said something to the effect of like, if there was Westworld, if there was Bondland, it'd be Thunderball. Yes, that is a special world that's well conveyed in that movie. And it also went up a little bit for me too.
I will add to that. I feel like I was being too hard on Thunderball, and it does have a lot of Bond elements that I appreciate. So it did go up 3 ticks from me, from number 25 to number 22.
Ooh.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
And also probably because, we lost Roger and this was the perfect balm for No Time to Die, but Moonraker went up a lot too. It was 16. It is now 13. It's just what I need. Fun Bond.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Why don't we move on to Ryan?
I don't have that much changing. Tomorrow Never Dies, on watching it again, moved up a little for me. That's a lot of fun in that film. Live and Let Die went down 1. Diamonds Are Forever moved a little bit, but these were all minor adjustments. Didn't really change much for me personally.
Tomorrow Never Dies, we had a little screening here with Bob. I think you were there too, but we also had 2 people who had never seen it. It played a lot better than I remembered. So I also put it up a few spots. There's some good classic Bond elements in that movie. Cool. All right. John, how about you? What movies changed since your last ranking 4 years ago?
Well, the most dramatic change, Bob is going to love this, was License to Kill. And I've come around to License to Kill, and it has moved from dead last up to number 16.
Whoa.
I now see something that I couldn't see, because I had always seen License to Kill as sort of the train wreck at the end of this classic era. It was like, what happened? How did we plunge in budget? How did we go to violence? How did we get this personal tangle? And the Craig era makes me see it differently. Bond movies are now personal. They're now violent. They're more grounded in reality. It's pretty cool to see them doing what they ended up perfecting that early on with a Bond that I love. Yeah, I like it now, warts and all. It is really dramatically moved up. Dead last is Quantum of Solace, which wasn't much of a move, but that is now last. And I keep trying to like it because there are certain people that like it. And I tried the other night, and 10 minutes in, I'm just like, I'm not going to subject myself to this. It's the editing. I can't get past it. And the movie is just a cold fish. And I'm just like, you know what? Forget it. It gives me nothing. It is comfortably last. Okay, so another riser for me is GoldenEye. GoldenEye was 11. It's now up to number 7. It is just aging so well. And it's Pierce at his best. I think it's just one of the flat out classics, a Bond movie I would show anyone. GoldenEye is a gem. That's moved up to number 7.
John, if you don't mind me asking, do you think that in the last 4 years, has the movie GoldenEye gone from being kind of an old movie to like a classic movie? Like,
yes, it captures its time too, in a way that A Spy Who Loved Me captures. It's a great 90s Bond time capsule. But one change, it's not a dramatic change, but I had Skyfall at number 4. And I'm always like, what do I like more, Casino or Skyfall? And they go back and forth. But I realized number 4 is too low. Skyfall, for me, that is the James Bond movie. So it's now at number 2, right under The Spy Who Loved Me, which remains my number 1. Wow. Spectre has dropped, but not terribly. Dropped to number 19 from 12. How I had it at 12, I don't know.
I mean, that was the new movie. I think we recorded our first Bondcast like 6 months or so after it had come out. You know, I could see that. I too have found that every time I watch Spectre, it just drops a little bit down my list.
It's like, even without No Time to Die, my fresh viewing was like, ooh, like I put this in wherever I put it, like 17 or something last time. I'm like, no, that's wrong.
I mean, it's rough because there's parts of it I really like. It's the only, as it turns out, the only movie where I feel we get Craig properly as Bond, not old or depressed or angry. He's just James Bond. But man, having Blofeld as his half brother is like having the new Batman movie and having Joker be revealed as half brother. It really hurts my brain. Okay.
And I should have moved Moonraker up, but I'm still going by the rules, and the rules weren't your personal favorites. These are Bond movies you would recommend to others. I mean, if it was my ranking, Moonraker would probably be like number 3 or 4 or something, but it's still down at number 6. It's one that for general people, you got to kind of dig it, but then you'll really dig it.
Awesome. All right. Athena, how about you? Which were your big movers and shakers from your old rankings 4 years ago?
The largest change was almost a swap. Skyfall ended up going up 4 ticks from 14 to 10. And then in the same vein, Dr. No ended up going down 5 ticks from 10 to 15. My reasoning here was after Craig's era, it was very clear how much of a visual work of art with depth to the story that I was getting from Skyfall that just wasn't shining in the other films. And I felt that deserved a higher recognition on my part. And then Dr. No, I'm like, you know what? I mean, yeah, it's a good pilot. Why do I have it above films like the films in between? Tomorrow Never Dies, Live and Let Die, The World's Not Enough, The Living Daylights. So The Living Daylights up a tick. Happy about that, Bob?
Yeah.
Diamonds Are Forever and Thunderball both went up 3. They have the elements I appreciate. I'm not sure why they were so low. I really have no desire to watch No Time to Die ever again. It is definitely better than Quantum of Solace. You can't see what's going on in that film. This is a visual medium. Let's see it. So Quantum all the way down to my bottom now because I'm like, can't even see what's happening there. So those are my changes.
A lot of mine changed. I've watched almost all the Bond movies since our last recording. When Connery passed, we watched all the Connerys. When Roger Moore passed, watching all the Moores. The biggest movers for me, Diamonds Are Forever, moved way up. I had it at 22nd. Now it's 17th. For some reason, last time we watched it, it just clicked for me. By far, the best American Bond girl is Tiffany Case, without question. Unfortunately, a lot of American Bond girls kind of suffer, but she's so fun and so sassy and adds so much flavor to that movie. I'm putting it up to 17. So I'm not saying it's just top tier Bond, but man, it's a fun time. Like, I don't know why else hating on it so much. One that did move down was Quantum of Solace. I had it at 20 and now it's 25th, second to last. I was one of the few, I feel, defenders sort of the last time around, but man, we watched it again recently. And you remember that the action sequences are confusingly shot and edited. You forget how badly the rest of the movie is shot and edited. The big one that went down, I'm sorry, License to Kill. I was the biggest defender of License to Kill last time. I had it at number 7, which was by far higher than everybody. And I thought for sure I was still correct on that. And then we had another screening where it was a few of us Bond nerds and a few people who had never seen it before. And man, it went over like a lead balloon to the new people. When you're watching a movie that you've seen a million times before with people who haven't seen it before, you truly watch the movie with new eyes. And I was just blind to some of the silly, goofy shit that's in that movie. The tanker truck that pops a wheelie, the X-ray photograph, the blinking fisheye. There's all these just dumb stuff. And John, last time I think you said it best, and I just didn't want to hear it. But now I realized it was that these people did not know how to make that movie. You really did need a new crew, a new director. I love John Glenn, but I do think that they just couldn't help themselves with this goofy stuff. And tonally, it's just kind of a mess. So I dropped it from 7th to 11th. I still think it's a great movie. I still love it, but I was over exuberant in my ranking of 7th. And there are some movies in there that I had placed above it that I'm now glad got nudged up, like Living Daylights, Skyfall, a couple others that got moved up that I think License to Kill kind of cleared the path, and down to 11th where I think it more belongs.
Everyone's number one is still number one though, right? No one had a change of number one.
Yeah, no change.
Yeah, I didn't really change much at the top.
So it sounds like the ones that we were like really had strong feelings on, especially our top fives, didn't really change. It was near the bottom parts below that where there was a lot of reorganization, it sounds like. We have now done all the math for you to figure out which Bond movie is the worst and which is the best and where they all stack up in between. So Athena, if you don't mind telling us the final results of our ultimate Bondcast, starting at the bottom, working my way up top, what are our average rankings?
The very last one. Big surprise here. Quantum of Solace.
Ooh.
Last place, the worst Bond movie. Sorry, Quantum.
Right above that at number 25. No Time to Die.
How depressing. Isn't that sad? It's like the newest
after
Bond
6
movie
years
is right at the bottom.
I was hoping my number would help more.
Well, it wasn't last.
Yeah, it did. Yep.
I mean, it is true. I am aware of Bond fans who really love this film. I don't know what's going on in their brain, but
hey,
denial.
I've had my criticisms.
You have good arguments for the film,
but not good enough. 25.
Apparently not. All right.
At number 24 is Spectre. What is up with Daniel Craig?
So Spectre is one of the biggest movers on our list from last time. Last time, our average results put it at 20th place. It is now dropped to 24th. And I suspect it's that No Time to Die lead balloon effect that it had on most of us.
All right. Number 23 is Die Another Day. Makes sense. All right. Yep. Number 22, A View to a Kill.
Oh.
It's not one that you would want to give somebody who wasn't already a fan.
No, yeah.
Next, we have a tie for spot 20 between The Man with the Golden Gun and The World Is Not Enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Place number 19 goes to Never Say Never Again. Number 18 goes to License to Kill. We now have another tie. Diamonds Are Forever and Tomorrow Never Dies.
Diamonds went up 2 spots from last time.
I have Diamonds very high. I love Diamonds, always have.
So number 15 is Dr. No. 14 is Thunderball. 13 is Live and Let Die. 12 is Octopussy.
Sorry, John.
It's okay.
It moved down from a tie of 10th place last time. It was at 10th.
Oh, it moved down. Okay.
It is more climaxes than a porn film, but besides that, it's a lot of fun.
You say it like it's a bad thing.
I thought you meant that literally, as in Roger Moore climaxes more than a porn film. I was like, what? And then I'm like, okay.
I did not know.
I know. I'm sorry.
Moving on, please. Please move on.
Oh, okay. So wait, what's next? Okay, number 11. Number 11 is You Only Live Twice. And now we're going to enter our top 10. Here we go. Number 10 is The Living Daylights.
Wow.
Great. Big mover. That last time was rated at number 13th place, and now it's at 10th. So us Dalton fans are quite happy, I think.
It broke the top 10.
I'm redeemed.
Break it into
redeemed.
Number 9, Moonraker.
Woo! Moonraker in the top 10.
Number 8, For Your Eyes Only. Number 7, From Russia with Love. Number 6, GoldenEye. How do you feel about that, Bob?
I have come to accept that you all are a little crazy in your Bond love. That's okay.
Number 5, Let's let the sky fall.
Previously, it was 6th. So Skyfall is now a top 5 Bond movie.
Number 4, Goldfinger. Number 3 is Casino Royale. Can't really sing that one. Number 2, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And number 1, still nobody does it better, The Spy Who Loved Me.
All right. Nice. Nicely done. Okay. Well done, everybody. We've now proved it yet again that Spy Who Loved Me is the best James Bond movie of all time. Okay, so now let's all go around, and if everyone can just tell me where we can follow you, and if there's any sort of site you want to plug, now's the time. Athena.
I'm on Instagram at Athena Stamos. I volunteer at a nonprofit called Cat Cafe Lounge, and they rescue and socialize cats for adoption. You should check them out if you want pussy galore.
Beautiful. Ryan, where can we follow you?
I have a website, ryanprovencher.com. I've written a book called Thine Own Self. You can buy it on Amazon. I'm going to have a new book out in 2022. And for those that live in Los Angeles, I am part of a comedy troupe called Those Four Misfits. You can find us on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter. And we do live shows in LA.
Awesome. John, how about you, man?
For Bond, I have a blog called thebookbond.com where I only talk about the books, but my true passion, and if you want to escape the world of James Bond, go to my main blog, which is wildabouthoudini.com.
And Bob.
If you wish to hear my opinions on Star Trek, go to Trek to Trek, which you can find on Facebook or Tumblr. I also have a costume shop where I do Doctor Who replica stuff called Replica Wardrobe on Etsy. And then similar to Ryan, I'm part of a comedy troupe called The Idiot's Lantern, which Brad and Athena are also part of. And you can look it up under my channel as Honorary Doctor.
Beautiful. And my name is Brad Hansen. You can follow me at Brad Hansen Media. And obviously I have my own YouTube channel, which is Retro Cars Forever. Usually we talk about cars, but so happy to be talking about my other nerdy passion, which is James Bond. I want to thank everyone here for being a part of this. Thank you all for listening. And remember, James Bond will return. Thank God. Bye.
Bye.